the Chinese had for thousands of years understood that consciousness is not, of course, only in who we are, it's in nature, but also where we live. That there are places that everything literally has a conscious expression, or is an expression of that infinite consciousness, in even in the three-dimensional version of it.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today we'll be talking with Marie Diamond, who is featured along with me in Rhonda Byrne's movie and book, The Secret. Marie Diamond is an acclaimed author, teacher, and speaker. She created the popular Diamond Feng Shui, Diamond Dowsing, and Inner Diamond meditation programs. How have you been living the greatest secret?
Well, I think what I would say, it really started for me when I was 15 years old, and when I had a near-death experience where I was, run over by a truck. I was declared dead, actually, and I went into being complete consciousness. And so when I got revived and I got back into the three-dimensional world, I first of all was quite disappointed, to be honest, when I was like feeling the sheets of my hospital bed, and there was like lights far away, and I thought like, oh, perhaps I'm still there. It's like, but I was not. I was like, okay. So from that moment on, I would say I was definitely aware that there was an experience of consciousness that I had access to, right? Mm-hmm. And that for me, it was like, okay, how can I connect in again with that full consciousness that I had experienced at that time? And I was very lucky I had a spiritual teacher already at that time. And so I was like, okay, just show me how to get there right away, how to get back in that awareness, right? And he's like, well, the thing is to get from that three-dimensional experience back into that full consciousness. He said, you need to really align yourself. Yeah, align yourself again between the human consciousness you have and that infinite consciousness that is all the time. And so you need to align yourself. So I really went very much into meditation and learning how to create a meditation connection with that infinite consciousness. But also there was this awakening that everything is that consciousness, everything belongs to it or expresses it, or the way you or defines it. And so I became really aware of that everything that I'm connected with, if that's human beings, nature, that this was part of that vibrational field. So being aware of that, was for me already living it. Yeah. And then when I was like 26, I had another experience where this time I didn't have to go through a near-death experience.
That's a relief.
Knocked out, and going through suffering, but just going through in a very deep state of myself in my being, and really connected in with that infinite consciousness. And in the experience I had, and the experience lasted for several hours, I was like, I could see that it was like I became the infinite consciousness. And then I saw the infinite consciousness creating everything. And I saw the Milky Ways being created, but I was the Milky Way. I saw the stars being created. I was the stars. I saw the planets being created. I was the planets. I saw human souls being created, and what was on the planets being created. And I was all of that. And so when I came back into the body, like, okay, I am that now. And that really just made such a, it was like what started at 15 and like at 26, it kind of expanded to understand that infinite consciousness, but also to be it now. And from that moment on, the next day, I remember I was still a lawyer at the time, and I went to my law practice in the train, and I was, looking from that moment on, and I was like, to everything. And I was like, what is the big difference now? And the big difference was the
Mm,
love I felt for everyone, the love, the compassion, I just was like, oh, they don't know, they are not awakened yet, but they will when they get in touch with that infinite consciousness. And I felt like living it was looking at them as they were infinite consciousness, because then I was thinking then they perhaps will be faster wakening up to that infinite consciousness that they are, if I can look from that
mm.
perspective. So that's how I kind of live. The greatest secret is that I look at everything and everyone and every situations from that infinite consciousness. And as I'm looking at it, as I am, when I speak, I am in that alignment with that, that experience. And so I hope that by living it completely, that they will also awaken to that infinite consciousness.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I was going to ask you, but yeah, I think you've already answered this. So, how has it matured for you since 26? How is, I know, I know that which you are doesn't change, but how has it continued to unfold in Marie's life?
Well, at that time, I was quite alone in knowing what's happening. I had nobody to talk to about this.
Sure.
I came from a Catholic family in Belgium, and so even if I wanted to try to explain it to like a priest that I knew, it was like, okay, he doesn't get what I'm talking about, right? So I started researching, and only when I was like 28, I started meeting people that kind of got a little bit of what I was talking about. And then I met more literally teachers that were in the physical form, because my teacher was not a physical form teacher, he was an immortal. And so what it has become in depth, first of all, I went on a journey to find other people, that
Right.
had that
Yeah.
experience. And I remember one time, I was about 28, and I started having these dreams of this woman with curly gray hair, and she was much older. And I was like, oh, and I could see like she knew this. She knew what I was talking about, what I had been living through and living
Yes.
now. And so I found that out, and she had dreams about a woman with curly blonde hair, because at that time. And so she was telling everybody, if you know about this woman. And so we finally met, and we were actually living in the same city. And I remember going to see her, and the first thing she said, oh, you're it. And I'm like, oh, you're it too. So we just, there was like a recognition that of aware that we both had a level of awareness that probably the people around us did not experience yet. Yeah. And that we both have found the greatest secret, right? And so what has matured, first of all, and that is something that I'm so blessed of, to know people that know what the greatest secret is, right?
Yes. Yes.
That live it, that we can have conversations about that. And of course, at that time, I was a lawyer, right? So I was not really, I tried to bring that into my work as a lawyer for the government. I was
Mhm.
a governmental lawyer. But then at 31, I started really teaching about this. I started having classes and seminars about enlightenment, about consciousness. And so, at the beginning, people started connecting with it, but I could see how they were still going on a journey to go there deeper into themselves. And I started looking for solutions to get them closer in that alignment and reconnecting with that consciousness. And so the maturing of it is that, first of all, now I have a lot of friends that that experience. And I have a lot of students that I can share this with. And I can now, in like as a lawyer, it was like I was living it, but I couldn't share it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, now I'm living it and sharing it. And this is now my constant expression of being able to share it. So that's how I matured in it. Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. So, how do you see how has the world changed in relationship to this
Mm.
between when you were young and now?
Well, you know, if I think about it, that I was like 28 before I could meet anyone that had a similar experience, right? And now that we have access to, first of all, a lot of teachers that can share about this, right? Even in the greatest secret, it's like, there's so many wonderful teachers that, are having, teachings about this, share about this information, and books about it. I mean, at a time, that was not really available, right? There were not even really a lot of books about it. Definitely not where I lived in in my country. Um, so that's one thing, is that now information about it is available, on YouTube channels, literally in seminars, in books, um, and literally even on TikTok they speak about it. I
Right.
mean, right? So it's like on all these channels. And so it means that I believe that each time somebody gets conscious about the greatest secret and is aware of who they are, what that vibration is of consciousness, I always feel that each time somebody awakes to that, there's like this exponential reaction in the world. And the exponential reaction is that more people, because of that, will awaken. So it's like, that's why I love to have this background. It's like, it's on a tree, it's like this little blossom opens up, right? And before you know it, the whole tree is blossoming with the most gorgeous flowers, right? And that's exactly what I feel is happening now. It's like, when I knew this information when I was 26, and we are literally now 32 years later, right? Is there was like a little blossom here and there, right? And the people didn't even always know about each other. They could feel probably that consciousness that it was present somewhere, but they did not really have a connection in such a way. Perhaps more in California for sure, right? But in Europe at that time, that was like, if there was a teacher and there were a few students around them, that was really considered. There are, because it's so different than the Catholic background that in Europe exists, that was immediately considered you an occult. Yeah, if somebody
Yes.
was guilty with consciousness. Yeah. So I'm not comparing it with California, but in Europe, that was definitely like this. But right now, it's like there's everywhere. The flowers are everywhere. It's everywhere blossoming. And, celebrities talk about it. They post about it. They do interviews about it. They're okay to share that they are doing meditation, that they are aligning themselves with that energy field. So right now, it's like, it's not yet over the threshold of completely integrated in society, but I would say we are almost over the bridge. Yeah.
That's good
So
news.
I really feel that we're almost over that bridge. Of course, especially what has happened the last year with the pandemic, is people were kind of pushed inside themselves, right? Because all the energy from outside was kind of dropping away because they couldn't go shopping like they wanted. They couldn't see the people. They couldn't go partying. They couldn't go traveling. So the distractions, yeah, were kind of taken away. And so people were like, okay, I need to go and listen to myself. I need to find out, who am I? What am I here for? What is this? What is this vibration? What is this consciousness? And I really believe it's a great gift, yeah, for many people it's not been easy for everyone, but it's been a great gift for many people to kind of become conscious about themselves and the world and their body and their mind and their spirit. So I feel like there's this opening that happened, and we still need to continue that opening, right? But I do believe each time that somebody becomes aware of that consciousness, that infinite conscious that they are, each time it's an exponential reaction. And I see that in, I have students that are more than 26 years with me now. And I already see their next generation. I see their children now. I see some of them, have grandchildren. And so I see like they have really continued sharing, or people saying like, oh, I could never talk about meditation. I could never talk about consciousness to my family. But in the last year, so many of them have been saying, I've been talking to my sister about this and my children. And so there's like it's been a lonely path for many people. There were like these little flowers starting to blossom, but now they're finding each other because they find each other on social media. They find each other by listening to a podcast. They're finding each other through books. But they also find each other literally in each other's family. Like there's an opening happening. So I'm really excited for that because
That is exciting.
it is super exciting. And when I started, I thought like, I'm living for these times. And now I'm like, oh my God, this is the time where I'm living for. This is the time where this greatest secret is finally going to be revealed to, more millions and perhaps hopefully billions of people in the world.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you 100%. That would be amazing. Actually, it does feel like it's happening. So we'll see how quickly it unfolds. So the what would you recommend to people who have either had a taste of this or are wanting to taste it? What do you recommend people explore to support them in this?
Well, one of the things for me that I have seen and that I have suggested to other people is even if you had a taste of it or you want to really explore deeper into it, is that you need to create a consistency of connection. So, not just having like this aha moment or like, oh, this exists, or a little glimpse you have from it, right?
Hmm.
But you have to keep every day connecting with it, even if you don't have this immediately complete connection with the consciousness. But it's like you have to reach out to it, you have to open yourself for it. And that can be done through meditation daily. And there's so many beautiful practices. um, I also believe it can connect in by walking in nature and being aware of you being in nature and seeing the beauty of nature that is totally an expression of that infinite consciousness. Um, it could be that you love doing this through breathing exercises. It could be that you also feel, I don't want to do this by myself, but I need perhaps to find a teacher, yeah, that can create a little shortcut for me, right?
Right. Yeah, teachers are
So
good at that. Yeah.
they are, right. And they're, I think we are in such a blessed time because, there's so many teachers that, and the teachers will only keep growing, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Because there are more and more people awakening. And that once you had that awakening, once you really, had a taste of it, and not just a taste, but you integrated it into your
Yes.
life. Yeah, because the taste is one thing, but integrating it. Yeah. So at 15 I had a little experience of it, but at 26 I integrated it, you
Yes.
know and every day I'm still integrating. The integration keeps going. It's like you become more and more aware, and more you're living from that experience. Is that I really would suggest people to reach out to somebody that can help with that. Yeah. But another aspect, and that's a really powerful aspect that's in the greatest secret, is that, to release some of our limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Yeah. is, I think, a very crucial aspect. Um, because even if you had a taste of it, immediately your mind comes in and like, yeah, that was just a one moment, one thing that
Right,
I
right, right,
did,
right.
right? But and then our ego personality comes in. Yeah, yeah, but let me hold you back, let me control you a little bit, and but finding techniques like yours and many other wonderful people that help you to release your limitations, yeah. um, Others that perhaps you feel like you need support in aligning with that consciousness, because I really believe we need to every day take time to realign with it, yeah,
Yes,
because that consciousness is always there, but we need to understand that it's easy to get out of it. It's easier to get out of it than to get connected with it, so we need to realign all the time, and aligning means we are aware again, it's there, yeah, it's present in us, yeah, that's a realigning for me.
yes, yes. That's great. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And you mentioned things that not everyone would think of. Like, well, I know some teachers talk about this, but even things like going into nature for most people is a wonderful reminder. And it really doesn't matter whether they've even had a first taste or not. There's something about the, the, the naturalness of nature that tends to quiet the mind and make you at least more available to that,
Yes,
to that realignment.
and I suggest that many times to people, especially when somebody like in the family had already that glimpse and they want to kind of open their family towards that consciousness, that I would say them just go on family outings, go and walk together in silence, and just point out how beautiful this tree is, and try to hug that tree and feel that tree, and even if they're thinking that's kind of weird, but still they will do it, or point out to these beautiful birds that are singing, or just pointing out to that, it actually opens their ability to be aware of something that is outside of their own mind, yeah. And it's so helpful for a lot of people to do that, and I think people do that sometimes out of themselves already, you
Yes,
know
definitely. Yeah.
right? So, but if you just can add a little bit more to it, and point out more, or say, oh, let's just sit here and just enjoy and just be present in the beauty of this place. Yeah. Because ultimately, if we are present in that consciousness, in this space around us, then that consciousness can totally, unfold in us, and we can start with being in nature. If people are not ready for a teacher, ready or for meditation, or ready for clearing their limiting beliefs, at least that is a beautiful way to do this.
Yeah, it's a wonderful stepping stone. And
Yeah.
besides which, nature is amazing just to be in, period.
Yeah. And you live in a beautiful place anyhow in
Yeah, yeah.
Sedona.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I now live in Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is in between Vancouver, British Columbia, and Seattle. So
Oh,
it's an exquisitely beautiful spot. There
I
are
heard
mountains like the one
of
behind you there.
Yes, they are. But this is a picture not from where I live. So I live in the south of France. So I
Yes.
have the Mediterranean around me and mountains. So I'm also super happy here.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So, uh, one of the things that people associate you with is Feng Shui, because I know you've been studying that for a very long time too, and teaching about it and helping people with it. How does how did you get into Feng Shui, and also how does that fit in with this whole unfoldment?
Yeah. So, as a child, I was always aware of the energy of the environment. I mean, I'm a seer, so I could see the energy, how people reacted differently, how their chakras, their aura fields would be different from one place to another. I was always observing that. And it's only after my near-death experience at 15 that I actually asked my spiritual teacher, why did that all happen? I understand I needed to go through this because I needed to connect in with that consciousness again. But, you know, tell me, and he started sharing with me about feng shui, and that the Chinese had for thousands of years understood that consciousness is not, of course, only in who we are, it's in nature, but also where we live. That there are places that everything literally has a conscious expression, or is an expression of that infinite consciousness, in even in the three-dimensional version of it. And so I started understanding I needed to be more taking attention to what the environment was for me. So I changed rooms, and even if I already knew how to meditate, suddenly my life really shifted in a more pleasant way,
Mhm.
and things that I had really hard time with were like easier and more effortless. And so I started really practicing the basic things I knew till I was about 31. And I started really I needed to know more about this environment. And in my own language, some books about feng shui came out. And before I knew it, I was actually studying within a year with grandmasters. Like you have grandmasters in Kung Fu or Tai Chi, you have grandmasters in feng shui.
Yes.
And so I started really understanding something very clear, and it's something that my grandmaster told me. And my grandmaster, who was somebody who really had access also to that infinite consciousness, he was that. And he said there are actually three ways to align yourself or support that infinite consciousness. And the first part is through the spiritual journey, right? The spiritual part to connect consciously with that awareness through meditation, through prayer, but also through clearing karma, yeah, to clearing anything that is blocking you, not from this life only, but also from previous lifetimes. He said that's what we call your spiritual alignment. A second part is what we would call the human alignment. And the Chinese called alignment the word luck, but actually it's
Right.
about alignment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, you can also connect better with that infinite consciousness in knowing, how your mindset is and how limiting your mindset is, and clearing that limiting mindset so that you are more and more having unlimited thoughts and unlimited beliefs. And he said it's also on the feelings level and the emotions. These also can be blockages. And when you are in the state of that unlimited consciousness, there is a love, and there's a gratitude, and there's a bliss that you can connect with. And then he said there's also into taking actions. So if you are, supporting people, if you're of service, if you're helping people, right, that also helps you actually to align with that consciousness. And you do that in a very conscious way from a level of compassion. But he said there's a third way that we as feng shui masters have seen affects your consciousness. He said, if we look at all the great masters, the enlightened ones, when a disciple is ready to really connect in with that infinite consciousness, they will bring that disciple to a place where there is such a beauty, such a high energy, such a prana. Think about the mountains where you are, like the mountains that I have here behind me, right? They would bring them to these places, or they would build close to this, what we would call sacred places, but these are actually places that have an easier access to that infinite consciousness. They would build temples, yeah, they would build churches or whatever they would build, so that people there could then practice that alignment spiritually,
Mhm.
and that alignment on a human level with people that are living in the temple or in that community. And he said, but we're coming in a time that that information was passed on for thousands of years only to the people that were in power or had higher knowledge. So the temples and the palaces were always built in such a way that both the emperor or the elders or the priests had that an easier access, an easier alignment with that infinite consciousness, so they could make decisions from that place. They could make decisions from that field. He said, but we're coming in a time now where, there's millions and millions of people that will reach that awareness, that will realize, that consciousness, and they cannot all come to the temples. They cannot go all to the church. They cannot all go to visit the mountains, right? It needs to happen where they live. And so for me, when I was studying Feng Shui, and I was already teaching about enlightenment and aligning yourself with that infinite consciousness, I always felt that when I was in my classes, people were like, yeah, they went up to that field and it was an awareness. And then they went home and it was like, it's almost like that access, that alignment kind of closed off, that closed down. And I thought like, oh, perhaps this is the missing link. Yeah. And so I started teaching people, some basic feng shui principles as I was studying and growing into it myself to become a feng shui master. And it's not that your house becomes a temple because your house needs to be a living being where you have children and perhaps you have a business and, you want to see your family and your friends. But what if we could raise that vibration of that home so that the alignment is easier, so that it's easier to think, feel, and do, and align yourself spiritually with that infinite consciousness. So I thought like, well, if I can create enlightened homes, or homes where that enlightenment, where that realization, where that consciousness can live, constantly, and it's easier to be in that vibration and in that experience, then I will be able to create much more people that live that consciousness. So for me, Feng Shui was a tool to help my students to live in that consciousness. Yeah. And so for me, Diamond Feng Shui is really creating an enlightened environment. So an environment where everyone can really totally live in that consciousness that is in them, but knowing that everything that surrounds them can be a reflection of that consciousness that is within them.
Beautifully put. I've never heard it explained that way. I've known about your work for a long time, Marie, but I've never heard the backstory. It's an amazing backstory, and it makes me even more enthusiastic about what you do. It's great. Okay. And so what other things do you recommend to people? So there's Feng Shui and there's these things we've gone over together, but can you give us some things that are more tangible? Well, those are all very tangible things, but some more specific things that people listening to this will find helpful to do either on a daily basis or occasionally, or just what else can people do to support themselves in this?
Well, I do believe that when we are in that state of consciousness, we actually have a level of harmony, or we are in a space of harmony in ourselves.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And of peace, harmony, well-being, right? And one of the things people can do, as I believe that consciousness reflects itself in the outside world, I also see through Feng Shui that when we are changing the outside world, that it will be opening up ourselves easier to create that space of harmony. And so that's why looking at your space and clearing your space and harmonizing your space in letting go of clutter and letting go of chaos, because in that consciousness, there is no chaos. Yeah. It is an infinite source. But what if your home could be supporting you in doing that? So, one of the first steps I always say to people, become aware of your space. Yeah. Because it's in that space that you live that you will experience that consciousness. Yeah. So, a very practical thing is to let go of things around you. I mean, everything can be a source of energy, but it can also be a blockage of energy. Like, the mindset can have create limiting beliefs, but to be honest, your home can actually create limitation too, because of so much things that are there, or clutter or chaos that you have created around you. I always say to people, like, I don't know if some of you have ever been to an Indian temple or a Tibetan temple. One of the first things the monks have to do in the morning is to clean up.
Right, right.
They have to clean up the dust. They have to make sure everything has its space. When they have eaten something, they are washing it, they're putting it away, the little bowl of rice. It's not all over the world and all over the place. There is an order, right? And so everything has a can support you or can block you. And so the more space you create around you, the more your consciousness can actually reveal itself. Yeah. So that is why space clearing and decluttering is one of always the first steps I'm encouraging people to do, and to be aware also of their life, and like, what do you allow in that space? Yeah. What are the images you have around you? Perhaps it's your television that's always on, and with listening all the time to, in the background, to news. Yeah. Perhaps it's all the time there is, you're looking at channels that have a lot of crime series on, right? So what are the, or there's the music all the time on, and it's like we have all this, I would say, not just space, but also experiences that we have around us, noise, literally,
Right.
that we we are not able to even connect in with that consciousness, because these are limiting aspects of ourself. Yeah. Limiting um, our access. Yeah, because it's there all the time. So I want you to look at what is the physical noise you create, um, literally, noise in the sense of what is around you, right? But also the audio noise that you have around you. Um, because ultimately, to really connecting with that conscious, you need time. You need time for yourself, regularly tapping into that. Yeah. You need space for it, but you also need silence. Yeah. And so when there's too much things around you, it affects your silence, your connection with that consciousness. So these are a few things I want you to really look through your house. It's like, not that your house has to look like a temple, not that you have to have all the time angels and saints, and it's not about that. There is in feng shui a certain level of harmony of colors that creates that peaceful energy.
Mhm.
But I just want you to look not just around you, but also listen around you. Yeah. And perhaps you are totally all the time on this little thing called an iPhone, right?
Right.
And that is also noise. That's
Yeah,
digital noise,
definitely.
right? And so it's possible you're not having time for that. I mean, if people say, oh, I don't have time to meditate, oh, I don't have time to be conscious, I'm like, yes, you do. Yeah, you do have time for that. Just start being conscious how, and how much hours you've been flipping
Right,
through,
right.
right?
Exactly.
Or how much hours you've been binge watching on Netflix.
That's right. That's right.
How
That's
much
right.
hours you've been listening to all kinds of things. I don't know, but this, if we would start calculating that per day,
Yeah,
right?
plenty of time. That's right. That's right.
Plenty of time.
When I do retreats with people, I always recommend that they go on a digital fast.
Yes.
Uh, uh, if obviously if you need to be in touch with your family or to something important for business, but otherwise just go on a digital fast and stay focused on the your true self, that silence, the beauty, the peace that's at your core.
It
And
is.
just doing that helps tremendously.
Totally, because it's time for your time to connect, you know, and that's the most precious thing, for me, I always take time to do a conscious connection with my consciousness,
Mhm.
in the morning, right, and at the evening, and during the day. The more you do that on a regular level, the more these 2 points of conscious access start linking themselves together, and the more you start living, if I was just making soup, right? So then it's like, this is conscious soup, right?
Right.
So it's like your life becomes a total expression of that consciousness that you are. But if you take time, and I always say to my students, mornings and evenings, just 5 minutes. I mean, let's be honest, if you don't find 5 minutes, stand up 5 minutes and go to bed 5 minutes later, So and perhaps during the day, take a little moment to reconnect, and you will start bridging that more and more, and your life will be more a conscious journey in everything you do.
That's perfect. That's great. That's great. So let's see if there's anything else. Can you uh, what is there something that you would recommend that people do, say, over the next week or month or just the next few days, as a challenge that you would recommend to people to become? It doesn't have to be necessarily connected to Feng Shui. It could be connected to the other teaching that you've been doing from a very young age. But what would you recommend as a challenge for people to focus on, to really support what you've been talking about?
Well, I have this little meditation that I'm teaching. It's called the Tubes of Light meditation. It was actually a meditation that my teacher gave me when I was 7, and it's available on my Mary Diamond application. So it's for free available. And there's a little meditation, 5 minutes, and hundreds of thousands of students do that meditation every day.
Is
And
it something you could do with us now?
yes, I would love to.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so may I invite you to just close your eyes and sit in a relaxed position. And just take a deep breath in and become aware of your breathing. Become aware where your breath is going into your body. And you can even visualize that it's not just a breath, it's like light. It's like the conscious light that is present in everything, in the universe, in you. Connect now with that light consciousness. And as you breathe out, kind of let go of any limitation or stress or blockages that conscious or unconscious you have around who you are, what you do, how you express yourself. And it's like your whole body, your whole aura field, who's like an arm length all around you, is kind of connected now, reconnected consciously with that light vibration. And feel it also connecting in with through your feet with the earth, knowing that you are one also with the consciousness of this planet. And then visualize the color royal blue. The color royal blue in the quantum field stands for the power of your consciousness, the creative expression that your consciousness has through you, through everything. And so we visualize that royal blue vibration to be around us and under us, so that we, from who you are now consciously connected with the power that is in everything, that conscious power. And visualize then and become aware of the color rose. And the color rose stands in that conscious field for all the love and support there is for you, connecting in with other people that live the greatest secret, that are aware. Connect now consciously through loving support with them, receive that support, give that support. You also, this is a place to connect in with, this moment to connect in with your teacher, the guidance, all the enlightened beings over time and space, present now in your life or in the future. Accept now that loving support on your journey to totally awaken and realize that consciousness. And then visualize the color violet. And the color violet, you visualize it from like under your feet, gently going through your body and your aura field till above your head into the universe. And the violet is a frequency to help you clear any limiting beliefs, limiting judgments you have about yourself, you have about consciousness, you have about others. And the violet stands for the forgiveness, the letting go of your conscious and subconscious blockages towards the conscious presence in yourself. And take a deep breath in and just let this go gently. And then visualize that an arm length above your head, there is like a bright white light. And in that connection with that bright white light, you are above your limitations of your physical body, of your mental body, your emotions. You're connecting in with your awareness of your life, of the world. And focus on that light, knowing that from that light, you can connect a conscious creation, a conscious connection with everyone and everything. Feel from that point the oneness. There is no limitation in the oneness experience. It's just paying attention to it, connecting it. Now you're ready to live from that consciousness in your daily life. So bring your hands together, move your hands, bring your warm hands in front of your eyes, open your eyes, and let go of your hands. This is a very simple meditation, and I love the fact that you have royal blue on as a shirt.
That's right. It's one of my favorite colors.
Yeah. So this is a meditation to just help you, align, to accept the power of the consciousness that is there too, but also to already connect in with the people that are aware out there or that are supporting you, your teachers, your anyone that is on your journey, but also to let go through forgiveness, because of all the limitations and the judgments that we have, conscious, subconscious, from past lifetimes, whatever it is that we're holding back. And connecting with the top of that magical hat almost. It's like, you imagine this like a hat. We see that in many of the traditions, if that's Egyptian traditions, Tibetan, Native Americans, the Druids, the priests that were aware of consciousness, they always were wearing a higher hat. Yeah. Even the bishops, they were wearing the high hat, the fairies, And so there is a point there. And when people connect there, it's like they don't fall so back easy in the ego consciousnness, the ego awareness that kind of controls them. So it's almost like, it's like with a lighthouse, you're like on the top of the lighthouse. So even if there's fog, even if there is, chaos from the rolling waves coming in, you're staying above it and you stay in that conscious focus. So that's what the tubes of lights are. So I invite you to explore, to do this as a challenge every day in the morning.
Oh, great. What a good suggestion. Thank you. I'm sure that's really going to help people. Yeah. So what a beautiful way to end our time together. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure everyone who's been listening to this really enjoyed it. It's something people can go back to and listen over and over again and practice in their lives. So wonderful, Marie. And we'll have all your information in the show notes so that people will know how to contact you. And it's really been a pleasure to spend this time with you. Thank you for agreeing to be part of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.
Thank you so much, Hale. It was a wonderful experience. And, even if we can't see each other in person, we had this wonderful moment together.
Yes.
And, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate how Marie Diamond helped us understand how our environment and our homes are expressions of infinite consciousness, and that good Feng Shui can help raise our vibration so we can more easily live the greatest secret. To learn more about Marie Diamond, her teachings, and her wonderful programs, visit mariediamond.com. That's www.mariediamond.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you can have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit sedona.com. As you explore our site, you learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's sedona.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.